Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Second time filming this video, which is very unfortunate, but this is my betting pick slash predictions video for UFC Fight Night, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. I will try to get through it as quickly as I can, because I managed to do that in the last video. Hopefully I can make the same level of points in this and that, but yeah, before we get into it, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll thank you in advance for doing so, because I'm Canadian, so thank you very much for your subscription. Come on. It's free. Just one click of the button, okay? I know you probably already pay for some subscription service, so just do this one. You almost got 100 videos you could watch. Okay, so first fight of the night is Carlston Harris versus, holy shoot, dude. 1 second. See, I'm all thrown off now that I've already filmed it. Okay, Carlston Harris versus Abubakar Nurmagomedov. I'm going to go with Carlston Harris here. He's got KO power. He's got some submission wins. He's also got 7 wins by decision, which shows that he can go the distance, right? He doesn't have cardio issues. As I said, good finishing ability everywhere, basically. And Nurmagomedov, while his surname may suggest a certain level, I don't think he is at the level of most guys with his surname. He shoots a lot of times, from what I saw, a little too far out, sometimes a little panicky or, desperate level of shots. And I think that Carlston Harris will be able to avoid his takedowns or, get back up, or even threaten with submissions to be able to get back up and possibly get a KO here, as Nurmagomedov in this fight, Abubakar, also seems to struggle with some cardio issues. So Carlston Harris, first fight of the night. Second fight, Tyson Nam versus Bruno Silva. I'm going with Tyson Nam as the underdog here. I know Bruno Silva is good, but so far in the UFC, he has not shown me what I would like to see, I guess, from a up and comer such as him. He's 2-2 in the UFC with 1 no contest, which was actually a loss. The guy tested positive, unfortunately, through USADA, so they overturned it. Tyson Nam, he gets outclassed by a lot of the upper echelon of the division, but when it's not the top of the, the top of the division, he seems to be able to get a knockout. I would imagine this fight, regardless, won't go the distance, so if that's a prop bet, you should probably take it. Both of these guys love to get KOs. But I'm going to go with Tyson Nam here getting the KO, maybe first or second round. So, next fight is Victor Henry versus Tony Gravely. I think this is another underdog pick, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going with Tony Gravely here. I've seen a lot of people picking Victor Henry, or I've heard a lot of people high on Victor Henry, but losing to Rafael Sunsao at one point in time was not necessarily a big deal, because he was a legitimate gatekeeper, right? But at this point in his career, at 40 years old, after 4 straight losses, 3 of which were finishes, I don't think it's the same level of loss anymore, and it's a little disappointing. And also, Henry is actually 35, right? And he hasn't had very many. I think Sun Sao may have even been his first loss in the UFC. I could be wrong on that. His second fight in the UFC, which is pretty crazy, but he hasn't shown me that he is like top of the food chain UFC level. And while I know that Tony Gravely also is not, his last time out, he lost a decision to Javid Basrat, the Snow Leopard, the better of the two, in my opinion. He gets a lot of KOs, and he's younger. Even despite his massive record, I still think he's going to be able to get the finish here. We've seen in the last few Apex events where guys who are like 35, 36 coming in their UFC like debut or second fight, and they just don't look the best, right? Because they're used to fighting guys at lower level competitions, and I'm not talking like Bellator or PFL or whatever. I'm talking like Cage Warriors and things like that. So I don't think Victor Henry's gonna get this one done. So Tony Gravely is who I'm picking. Ariane Lipski versus JJ Aldridge. Okay, first of all, dude, Ariane Lipski. Some chicks have the cringest nicknames. I don't get it, man. Like, Jessica Penne needs to call herself the Crypt Keeper, because that would be the coolest nickname of all time, and I fucking made it up. I gave it to her because she looks like the Crypt Keeper, and it would be an accurate nickname. Okay, Ariane Lipski calls herself the Queen of Violence, which is like, okay, lady, really? Yeah, I ain't. It's almost as cringe as Greg Hardy calling himself the Prince of War, right? She got fucking stopped by Antonina Shevchenko, which, despite that last name, it's not a good look. Antonina Shevchenko is nowhere near the level of her sister, okay? She also lost a decision to Molly McCann. Molly McCann's kind of been figured out, you know what I mean? She's not very good. And especially getting outclassed in a fight against her, not like getting finished by some crazy spin shit, but getting outclassed is not a very good look. You know, she's lost to Joanne Calderwood. I think that may have even been a finish. So the losses that she's had are not very good. Whereas JJ Aldridge, she's been looking quite well. Quite good, pardon me. I don't know why the fuck I said that. Quite good as of late. She's lost to Erin Blanchfield, which is fine. No shame in that. Erin Blanchfield's a fucking savage, and she's looking fantastic, and she might be the girl who could beat Valentina and fucking Alexa Grasso for all we know. And then a while ago, a few years back, she lost to Macy Barber, which that is not a great one. But I would argue that Macy Barber is a little bit better than fucking Molly McCann or, like, you know, girls like this. So despite me shitting on Macy Barber in my Valentina video, I still think that that's not as bad of a loss. I would pick Aldridge by decision here. Hopefully we see a finish, because then I don't have to sit through 15 minutes of boringness and possibly fall asleep because of it. But, you know, it is what it is. Okay, next up, Mario Bautista versus Guido Canetti. Dude, Mario Bautista should not be a minus 1,000. This is a little insane, especially considering the division that they're at, right? If I'm not mistaken, this is fucking bantamweight. It is. This is one of the deepest divisions in the UFC. I would argue the deepest. And everybody's dangerous, man. So while Mario Bautista does look phenomenal, and he's on the way up, whereas Guido Canetti's kind of not, right? They're both dangerous guys. I don't, like, maybe even cut that in half. 5-1 favorite. I mean, it's fucking crazy to see a 1,000, minus 1,000 in a men's division, especially one as deep and talent rich as this. Guido Canetti, though, with that being said, he does have a pretty bad record. He's 10-6. He finished Chris Moutinho way back in the day, which is insane because it shows you the level of power he has. Chris Moutinho has a fucking chin on him, and it took Sean O'Malley almost 3 full rounds to deal with him. So he got a, submission win the last time out against Randy Costa. So before that, though, loss after loss after loss. So I'm going to have to go with Mario Bautista here, probably by finish, because Canetti does get finished more often than not in his losses. So next fight, Cedric Dumas versus Josh Fremd or something. I don't know how to say it. Cedric Dumas, dude, this guy looks like a fucking SoundCloud rapper. He looks like a mumble rapper who would be sipping on lean and popping Xanax and shit like that. But he's got that, like, killer look in his eyes. He's kind of terrifying. So you can tell that he's not sedated by Xanax and codeine and all that stuff. He has a very, very, very quick clamp on his guillotine. He locked that shit in Dana White's Contender Series. Fast as fuck and tight. It was nasty, dude. And I could see him hurting Fremd on the feet, pardon me, and then possibly getting another guillotine or something along those lines. I don't think that Fremd is on his level. I think it's a good first test, but he's not fighting top flight competition. Like, Fremd's, one of his opponents in the UFC was 3-2, and it's like, okay, dude, I mean, whatever. But Cedric Dumas looked very good on the Contender Series. I think he's going to be able to get this one done here, probably by finish. Rafael Sunsao versus Davy Grant. Okay, this was a tricky one for me because I wanted to pick a Sunsao until I started realizing what I said with the Henry fight. He is not what he once was. He once was a phenomenal gatekeeper, and I don't know if anybody, like, it reminds me kind of Cowboy, right? When Cowboy at one point was a legitimate gatekeeper. If you could get past him, we knew you could take on the top of the division. Towards the end of Cowboy's career, though, he started losing a bunch in a row, and then that wasn't really the case. And then you saw guys who you knew were never going to be back at the top of the division, like Alex Morono or Anthony Pettis. But I think he won that Anthony Pettis fight, but officially he lost it. But you see him having fights like that, and you're like, man, okay, this is kind of done. And in a Sunsao's case, the losses at the time were not bad, but they have not aged well. Okay, he lost to Marlon Moraes by finish. I think it was a second round guillotine. I think Moraes had him in a fully mounted guillotine, and he got flatlined by Cody Garbrandt, which neither of those losses have necessarily aged well. Like, Marlon Moraes kind of got exposed, and Cody Garbrandt's kind of been exposed to a certain extent. So he got finished by Ricky Simone as well. I think he got knocked out. And if it wasn't knocked out, he got knocked down and then finished on the ground. And then, he lost a decision to Corey Sandhagen, which, yeah, they're all very good guys, but it's just that he's 40 years old now. he won a decision against a guy who was only had one fight in the UFC when he fought him, who was also a little older, right? Henry, whatever his fucking name is, Victor Henry's 35 years old. So it wasn't like he was fighting some young, up-and-coming killer, right? And Davy Grant's a savage, man. And I could see Davy Grant getting it done now. I don't know if Sun Tzu's going to have... If he's going to start showing chin issues. I know Ricky Simone's a big guy, and I know Cody Garbrandt hits hard as shit, but man, it's, 40 years old is very old, especially in the bantamweight division, and I know that Davy Grant's getting up there as well, but I just think he's just more of a savage, and he's not necessarily worried about getting hurt. Like, he's going to fucking hurt you no matter what, so I'm going to go with Davy Grant here. Maybe by decision or a late stoppage. Okay, next fight of the night's Carl Williams and Lukasz Brzeski. I've missed this one. Dude, I'm glad I had to refilm this. I missed this fight, the fucking first video. I'm going to pick Lukasz Brzeski. If that's how you say his name, I'm not quite sure. Carl Williams, he got a decision victory over a guy who was 4-1 in the Contender Series, and it's weird that heavyweight going to a decision would earn you a contract, because you'd typically want to see power out of the heavyweights, right? It wasn't a good fight either, but none of his opponents really have impressive records. I think that Lukasz Brzeski, I don't know how to say his name, but I think he's going to be able to get this one done, probably by like a decision. He'll probably pick him apart for 3 rounds, something along those lines. Next fight is Victor Petrino versus Anton Turkalj. Okay, so I'm going with Victor Petrino here. The guy's got fucking power, and he's got hands. And when I was first watching his Dana White Contender Series fight, I thought, man, this guy looks a little sloppy. But as the fight went on, he started getting the timing down of his opponent, and it started to look a lot cleaner and nicer, and he eventually flatlined him. Now, he did fight through some adversity as well. He got in a fully locked-in triangle. He pulled the old Rampage Jackson, which I have not seen in a very long time, picked the guy up and slammed him, which then made the lock break, and then he stayed down there, landed some ground and pound. He also got dropped in that fight, so we know he can fight back from adversity. He doesn't fucking give up. He's not gun shy after getting hurt. He keeps coming, and he hits hard as shit. And Anton Turkalj, while has looked very good, he has very good skills. There's a lot of times, dude, I don't know what it is, certain fighters, when I see them, they make me nervous as shit, dude. He makes me nervous. Chin up in the air a little bit. Like, he's just a little... I don't know. It makes me fucking nervous, man. And I know that, he got subbed by Jailton Almeida, which is fucking whatever, dude. Jailton Almeida subs everybody. And Turkalj is not a natural heavyweight. I think he weighed around 215 pounds for that fight. And I'm pretty sure he took it on short notice. And Jailton Almeida is fucking ginormous. And just, you know what I mean? He's Jailton Almeida. So it's not... I'm not holding it against him. But just in the striking department as well, I don't think he's going to be able to control Petrino the way that you need to in order to avoid his power shots and things like that. So I'm going to go with Victor Petrino here. I think Turkalj is a slight underdog, but yeah. So next fight, Said Nurmagomedov versus Jonathan Martinez. Dude, I have to go with Said Nurmagomedov until he gives me a reason not to. And he almost did in his last fight against Said Jakub Kakhramonov. Now, Kakhramonov was controlling him quite a bit on the ground. I don't think Jonathan Martinez is going to be able to do that, which, right, this is how Kakhramonov was able to win rounds against Said. But then Said pulls off a fucking guillotine out of nowhere and gets the finish. So, he can get things done when it isn't going his way. He's very, very tricky on the feet. It reminds me of Zabit Magomedsharipov a little bit, where he can use the grappling. It's not his favorite. He's got nice trips, and he can grapple, but he would prefer to stay on the feet, and he uses a lot of tricky shit on the outside. He's very fast and explosive, and he's accurate as well. So I've got to go with him here. Jonathan Martinez is very good, and this will probably be a tough fight for Said. I mean, who knows? We will see, but he's fucking good, man. I like watching Said Nurmagomedov fight a lot, and while Jonathan Martinez is tough and finished Cub Swanson, his fights before that he wasn't getting finishes, and I really think that it's more that Cub Swanson is kind of old and on the way out, and also now at bantamweight and just has taken a ton of damage, and also it was a TKO to leg kick, so it wasn't like he flatlined the guy or anything like that, you know what I mean? So, going with Said. Next fight. Oh no, they don't have this on their website because it's the UFC, okay? Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann has been moved to this event. I am going to stick with my Nikita Krylov pick. I believe they are fighting at a catchweight, which I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe 210, something along those lines. Regardless, though, I would imagine Ryan Spann walks around at like 230. That's now 2 weight cuts in a few weeks. And he's not very skilled, I would argue. And I'm not trying to be disparaging, but he relies a lot on his power. And we kind of see this in fights like his Anthony Smith fight, right? If you can avoid those big bombs, which Anthony Smith could, you could school him in most areas, right? Like, it wasn't just the ground. Anthony Smith was hurting him tagging him on the feet with counters and shit like that. Nikita Krylov has very good striking. And if he doesn't go in there in fucking berserker mode, right? Go fuck like he did against Volkan Ozdemir, I don't see him getting knocked out. Also, Volkan Ozdemir has really tight inside, like hooks inside in the pocket, and he hurts a lot of guys off clinch breaks and shit like that, right? So he doesn't need to do a massive punch to generate a lot of power. They're always short little shots, usually like right behind the ear. Ryan Spann has to throw big shots, and I don't believe him that he says he didn't train before recently. Like, that's fucking bullshit, dude. I'm pretty sure people have proved that wrong anyways. Like, there's training videos of him. I don't like when guys say shit like that. You're fucking lying, okay? Don't try to make it seem like you're so good that you got to the top of the division without training, and now that you're training, guess fucking what, dude? Because Anthony Smith schooled you, okay? And I know that Nikita Krylov was sick, but it was a foodborne illness, so like food poisoning essentially. He probably wiped that out in a couple days, and I think it's going to be easier for him to make the weight a second time. I think it's going to look similar to how I broke it down the first time. Okay, so the co-main event, that may be the co-main event, I'm not sure. It might be the feature fight, but I'm going to get to what is officially on the UFC website, the co-main event right now, which is Volkov, Alexander Volkov, right, Drago versus Romanov. I have to pick Alexander Volkov here because people might think this is weird, this is not a good pick because Volkov seems to struggle against grapplers. I would argue to you that when Volkov gets taken down, it's by guys shooting like traditional double legs and shit like that, guys that attack the legs, okay? Because Volk is 6'7", a big awkward guy, right? You shoot for his legs. That's Curtis Blades did. That's what Tom Aspinall did. Tom Aspinall timed it perfectly. Tom Aspinall was actually able to finish him, whereas Curtis Blades fucking laid on him like a meat blanket, like what John Jones called him, meat blanket, for 5 rounds, and it was boring as shit. Okay. I would imagine Volkov has been working on his grappling quite a bit because he lost 2 fights to it, right? So he's probably like, I need to square this away. And also, Romanov does not attack takedowns the same way that a Curtis Blades or a Tom Aspinall did. He does more upper body attacks, right? He wants to throw you, trips. So guys that shoot doubles, they're getting rid of a step because if you are standing a few feet away from each other, right, at range, and you shoot a double leg, you are closing distance at the same time that you are shooting for a takedown. Whereas Romanov doesn't necessarily take guys down like that. Romanov wants to grab you first and then work in the clinch, get to a dominant position, and then go for a takedown with like a trip or a throw or something like that, right? Now, so he's adding a step. He's going to have to close the distance on Volkov before he can get to a point where he would be able to take him down. And at least that's what I've seen from him. It was showcased in the Martin Tybura fight quite a bit. And Volkov has a lot of good rangy attacks. He throws very straight punches, and we've seen that he's kind of developing power because he wasn't necessarily knocking guys out with his hands before, but he fucked up Jairzinho Rozenstruik fast, okay, with his hands also. He's got very good teep kicks, right? He finished Walt Harris like that. He's got great knees up the middle. He's got attacks that would stop somebody who wants to close the distance, or at least make them think about closing the distance before they do so. And Romanov, in that Marcin Tybura fight, he wasn't able to do a whole lot, right? Once he got the fight to the ground, Marcin was able to get back up. He took him down again. It was basically the first round is all he had. And then coming out in the second round, he looked dead fucking tired, right? And I think that Volkov is going to be harder to take down in the way that Romanov likes to take down guys, not just because it's going to be harder to close the distance on him, because Volkov has way better striking than Martin Tybura, but because Volkov is a very tall man, And you see this when guys try to get takedowns from the fence, like from a clinch position. If you are very tall, it is easier for you to defend. Dominic Cruz always says this one thing. It's like trying to take down a table. One of the legs always seems to hit the ground. And you see this with guys like John Jones, like guys that are taller, right? When guys try to trip them and shit like that, they can always seem to get a leg down. You have to elevate them and then do it. And it's hard to elevate a guy that is that tall. So I don't think that the grappling is going to be too much for Volkov to handle. I think he's going to be able to keep his distance. He may get taken down once or twice, but I think that he'll be able to do enough damage on the feet to either get a decision win or a late third round stoppage, because he has made Romanov so dead tired from body kicks and shit like that. And yeah, that's what I think, dude. Volkov's good, man. I like watching him fight. Okay, last fight of the night, main event, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. I have to go with Petr Yan here, man. And I know that may seem like a bad idea, because we've seen Petr Yan now get controlled against Aljamain Sterling, and grappling is maybe not his strongest area. But I would argue that Merab Dvalishvili has fucking nowhere near the back control that Aljamain Sterling has, obviously. And Petr Yan, that back is kind of like his kryptonite. Whenever they would initiate in grappling with him and Aljamain, he would give up his back to try to get away. Like, he was rushing to try to get away, and he would give up his back, which is not a good decision, because Aljamain is known for having an incredible back take and back control. Merab doesn't have that same level of control. He likes to push you up against the clinch, and the only time in recent memory that I can think of where I've seen him do like significant damage with ground and pound is against Marlon Moraes, after Marlon Moraes was dead tired, because he almost finished Merab Dvalishvili and then blew his load trying to get him out of there. His fight against Jose Aldo was very, very, very underwhelming and very lackluster, in my opinion. It was just basically him pushing Aldo up against the fence. Now, I know that Aldo has incredible takedown defense, like some of the most underrated like people forget how good his takedown defense is. That being said, though, Petr Yan's got very good traditional takedown defense as well. Like, Aljo didn't really get takedowns. He just jumped on the back. So I think that Petr Yan will be able to do enough damage on the feet and give Dvalishvili enough looks to the point where he starts getting hesitant about maybe going forward, which I know is going to sound crazy because Merab is called the Machine. But I just think that Petr Yan's too crafty. He's very good in the clinch. He's got good trips and shit like that. I don't think that Merab's going to be able to control him for a significant amount of time to get a decision win. And I don't think that Merab Dvalishvili can finish Petr Yan. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan here by either decision or a late stoppage after hurting him to the body and things like that. Because a guy like Merab, you're going to have to attack his body. We saw that against Marlon Moraes, dude. There's a lot of referees that would have stopped that fight. There's also a lot of other guys that, were they not Merab Dvalishvili in that situation, would have gotten finished, because he just doesn't stop. So Petr Yan's going to have to attack his body, and hopefully he sets it up, right, with leg kicks and shit like that, so that he doesn't just get a leg caught and then gets controlled for that round. But I'm gonna trust in Petr Yan to get this one done. He also needs this one badly, man, because I know it's not I know the first Aljo fight's kind of like meh, but officially he has lost 3 of his last 4, right, which is not a good look. The DQ lost to Aljo. He beat Corey Sandhagen in between. He lost to Aljamain Sterling in the rematch, and then lost to Sean O'Malley. And yes, all very close fights. Maybe even could have been scored in his favor, but he needs this one bad. So I'm going to trust Petr Yan to get this one done. And man, I got through that way quicker than I thought I would, which is amazing. Okay, nice. Right. Like and subscribe. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you in advance. And I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.